When the capital went into lockdown for the first time last March, the Underground kept running to transport key workers to hospitals and offices. Only one line, the Waterloo and City, closed as tens of thousands of city workers followed advice to work from home. Today, the line has reopened, but is the demand still there for it? Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
There wasn't exactly a rush to get on board, but this tube train represents a milestone in London's post-pandemic revival. The Waterloo and City line, unofficially known as the Drain, is back in business. And among the first passengers was London's mayor.
I see no reason why we can't fully reopen on June the 21st. I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping when the government sees the latest data, they allow us to reopen on June the 21st.
Before the pandemic, more than 500,000 people a day came into the city to work. They would hardly recognise it today. There are some signs of life in the city, but the square mile is still a pale shadow of its former self. And many firms have already decided the old way of doing things no longer works. Hybrid working is the new normal. Increasingly, some offices only open some days of the week.
The evidence we're seeing is that it's busier on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And today is Monday, so it's not as busy. But there's a slow comeback. And the more we have things like the opening of the Waterloo and City line, the more people will come back feeling more confident in travelling into the city.
This building on the edge of the city rents out so-called flexible workspaces. One of its new tenants, an engineering firm, has just downsized from a nearby office and saved £60,000 in the process.
We don't have a huge office anymore. We have this very small fixed office for 8 members of staff, down from 27. And how that works is that some people are in some days and some people are in other days.
So you have a double espresso.
But for Bar Rocca, an Italian bar and restaurant in Leadenhall Market, the new way of working is a disaster. The business relied on office workers.
Unless they're here, we're not doing any business because passers-by is really a small amount of people doing, coming in and having something to eat. We do rely on office people 90%, I would say.
So without them, you're in trouble?
Yes, we are in big trouble.
Even if the rules are relaxed in 2 weeks' time, commuters shouldn't expect to throw away their masks.
I think that day will come, but obviously we want to be in line with government policy, and we want people to not only feel safe, but also to feel confident. So I think we'll see people wearing masks for some time to come.
There are many uncertainties. How many city workers will go back to their offices is one of them. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Next tonight, we are still lagging behind the rest of the country in the numbers of people getting a COVID vaccine, with North East London the lowest in the country. Today, under 30s have been invited to book a vaccination. Well, our political correspondent Simon Harris is here. Simon, talk us through these numbers then.
Yes, more than 4.5 million Londoners have now been inoculated against COVID. But as you say, worryingly, London still lags the rest of the country. In England, on average, over 80% of over 50s have had the recommended 2 doses. But in London, only 75% have had both jabs, the lowest average in the country. The worst area is in North East London, where the Clinical Commissioning Group has seen just 71% of its population jabbed. Now, earlier today, we spoke to the Mayor of Newham, who admitted that there were challenges.
We've got pop-up vaccination centres in our community areas, using and working with places of worship as well as other different community organisations. So we're very much on the real focus of encouraging people to get vaccinated when their time comes.
Well, talking about vaccinations, you've got an update on UEFA and the Euros, yeah?
Yes, UEFA has just announced some new rules for anyone going to see matches at Wembley, the first ones on Sunday. And anyone over the age of 11 must prove one of 2 things. First of all, have they had a COVID jab, 2 COVID jabs, and are they more than 2 weeks ago? If they've got that and they can prove it with the NHS app, and they have a ticket, they'll be allowed in. Alternatively, they must also prove that they've had a negative lateral flow test within the last 48 hours. If they could do that with a text message or an email from the NHS Test and Trace, they'll be allowed in. It's not being called COVID passports, but it amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, OK, Simon, thank you. But first, the West End has to wait just 4 more days to find out whether a full house is allowed for curtains up. But after more than a year of closed theatres and socially distanced productions, more and more are starting to reopen. Tonight at the Palladium, Lee Mead's new show opens. The actor from Southend is best known for his role in Holby City and for playing Joseph after winning the TV show Any Dream Will Do. He spoke to our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
It feels amazing. Yeah, I can't believe I'm at the London Palladium, to be honest. It's been a year and a half since I've been on stage. I think the longest time in 20 years is probably 2-3 months that I haven't sung for an audience. So to come back here tonight with my show is a dream come true, yeah.
How hard is it for a performer like you not being able to perform?
It's been really, really tough, yeah. As anybody will tell you, it's the last year and a half. I think mentally, it's my job and I love what I do, and I think also for all audiences, just being in the theatre and missing that connection with the live audience. I mean, it's wonderful that we've had stream shows the last sort of few months, and we've managed to adapt, but you can't beat that live buzz of being in a theatre. Yeah. You've
got a 35-date tour starting in September. You've already had to postpone it once because of coronavirus. How difficult has that been? It's been really tricky, yeah. Fortunately, I pulled my tour really early on and we managed to rebook for the end of this year, but there's been hundreds of shows and acts across the country in theatres that couldn't get the slots, and they're now looking in 2022. So I feel very lucky that the full tour has been rebooked for this September, October, yeah. With all the uncertainty about social distancing and June the 21st, is the uncertainty over when the date's going to happen frustrating? A little bit, yeah, but I feel confident because, as you know, we're 75% vaccinated now, the first jab across the country, and we're a far better place than we were this time last year. I mean, if you said to me last summer, when's the next show going to be, I would have... It's quite a sort of sad time, but I think now going towards the end of this year, start of next year, it's looking very positive, and hopefully, things will be back on their feet within the next sort of few months, yeah. Are you confident this one won't be postponed? I'm pretty confident, yeah. I feel good. Famous last words, but touch wood. But I think it's looking very good now, yeah.
Lee Mead there, and that interview was part of a piece that our political correspondent Simon has been filming for his political programme, The Late Debate. Here's what else is coming up.
Yes, we'll be asking what happens if June the 21st doesn't happen. We hear from a nightclub owner and a restaurant boss who fear the worst. And we'll discuss the uncertainty over the next milestone in the government's roadmap with a minister, a Labour backbencher and one of the joint leaders of the Green Party. Plus, we'll be talking all things Euros and Olympics with a former sports minister who knows all about winning medals. That's The Late Debate here on ITV after news at 10.